An intense game in match week 34 with Wolves facing off against Sheffield United, both teams searching for European football next season. Many important moments such as a Ruben Neves free kick which spiralled onto the crossbar on the half-hour mark and a Billy Sharp goal which was ruled out in the 53rd minute, but no event had more impact than a 90th minute header from John Egan to send the Blades within a point of Wolves. The result opened up a gap and leaves Wolves 6 points behind the Red Devils. Sheffield and Wolves both have tough home games next week as Wolves play against Everton, whilst the Blades will face a top 4 Chelsea side who have their eyes on Champions League football. Both teams need to work on their shooting for next week's game, as only 11 shots were taken in the whole match, Sheffield United having 6 and Wolves having 5. Sheffield United only had 50% of shots on target and Wolves only 20%. The possession was largely dominated by Wolves, having 57% of the ball, but the key factor of the game was the fact that Sheffield United won corners 6-1, which would be the end result as they would end up scoring off a corner in the 90th minute to win themselves the game and go 1 point off Wolves. Despite the 53-point gap between the two in the table, Thursday's match between Brighton and Liverpool was a lot more entertaining than many would have thought. It took the champions just 6 minutes to get on the board, and then they made it 2 in as many minutes. Despite the appalling start, there was a glimpse of hope for Brighton, as Trossard halved the deficit just minutes before the break. An absolute sitter was missed by Dan Burn on the hour mark, which would prove costly as the 76-minute goal from Salah sealed the 3 points for Liverpool and pushes them one step closer to the Premier League points tally record. As for Brighton, on the other hand, they sit in 15th, just 8 points above the drop. Although a lot of shots were taken in this match, both teams need to work on their accuracy, as the champions had 16 shots and only 7 on target, and Brighton had 11 shots and only 3 on target. The possession was very even in this match, with Liverpool beating Brighton 53% to 47%. Both teams have home fixtures next week, as Liverpool look to gain 3 points against Burnley, whilst Brighton have a tough visit from Manchester City. An intriguing mid-table clash between Southampton and Everton was largely dominated by the Saints in the first 30 minutes. And they thought they had the lead in the 7th, but as replays showed, Armstrong was well offside with his attempt on goal. The Saints didn't give up though, and received a controversial penalty in the 27th minute, which was fired onto the crossbar by Ward-Prowse to keep the score level. Finally, 3 minutes later, Southampton took the lead as Danny Ings netted his 19th goal of the season. The lead was short-lived though, as just 13 minutes later, Brazilian striker Richarlison levelled the scoring with a great finish. That was really all the game had to offer, as a dull second 45 saw the two sides pick up a point each and remain in the very centre of the Premier League table. As the score reflected, it was a very even game, despite the possession of Southampton getting 59% and Everton only getting 41%. Shots on target was 4 each. Fouls was 14 for Southampton and 13 for Everton. Yellow cards was 3 each. Offside was 3-2, Everton getting 3, Southampton getting 2. And corners was Southampton 5 and Everton 3. Both teams have tough away visits next week as the Saints play United and Everton play Wolves. Two teams in completely opposite situations, as Spurs were looking to push into European spots whilst Bournemouth were trying to hang on to their place in the Premier League. Spurs forward Harry Kane arguably should have had a penalty in the opening 5 minutes, but the most intense part of the match came in the last 10 as Bournemouth scored an 85th minute winner, which was chalked off and called back for a foul. Furious that the referee didn't play advantage, Bournemouth took the free kick and managed to score a last-minute winner to take them 1 point off safety. Or so they thought. The shot struck the hand of Josh King and was ruled out, ending the match in a 0-0 draw. Tottenham were very disappointing in this match, having 7 shots and 0 on target, whilst Bournemouth had 4 shots with 2 on target. Tottenham will be very pleased to walk away with a point, but disappointed with the way they played, and they will massively have to improve if they want to get all 3 points in next week's game against Arsenal. Meanwhile, Bournemouth have a tough home match against Leicester, but if they play the way they did today, they can challenge the Foxes for all 3 points. Much like Tottenham and Bournemouth, this match contained one side aiming for European football and another barely holding on for survival. Despite their different aims for the remainder of the season, it was Villa who started off the better of the two, with Jack Grealish firing a shot over the bar, and then another chance, this time by Trezeguet, which bounced off the post after beating the Spanish keeper. But within 60 seconds of this chance, Portuguese midfielder Bruno Fernandes was scoring a penalty, which he just won on the edge of the box. Greenwood doubled the advantage on the stroke of half-time, and a 57th minute goal from Pogba wrapped up the win for the Red Devils and puts them 1 point off top 4. Both teams' shooting was impressive for the game, but one thing Villa must work on is one of their 10 shots were on target. Man United had a lot better with their shot accuracy, getting 6 of their 13 on target. As expected and as shown by the scoreline, United dominated the possession 65% to 35%. They both have home games next week, with Villa playing a mid-table Crystal Palace side and United playing a mid-table Southampton side. Villa will have to work really hard to get out of the relegation zone, as they now sit 4 points from safety. Meanwhile, United, with that win, go 1 point off Leicester and so much closer to Champions League football. Well, there we have it. Another match week of the Premier League is done. So what we've learnt from this week, Man United putting much pressure on top 4 with only 2 points separating 3rd and 5th. Meanwhile, Europa League spots are heating up, as between 10th place Burnley and 6th place Wolves, only 3 points separate them. Meanwhile, in the drop zone, Bournemouth putting on pressure on Watford and West Ham with a much-needed point against Tottenham. Meanwhile, Aston Villa and Norwich with pretty bad losses, putting much pressure on themselves, and they both could go down. Anyway, we'll see you guys for Match Week 35. Like and subscribe.